Hello and welcome to the Anyone Can Play Guitar podcast,
which gives you, the listener, a series of hints and pointers on your journey as a musical artist,
providing you with interviews from those in the music industry, along with our own experiences.
Ben and James shine some light on the many pitfalls and opportunities that being a musician has to offer.
Last week we were up in Edinburgh speaking to Mike Livesley, aka Made by Mike, for part 2 of our delve into guitar pedals. Here we covered pedal combinations, software emulation and multi-effects boxes. This week Ben is in the Cluny in Newcastle speaking to Shopping about band ethos, decision making, self-releasing versus label and control over image. Welcome to episode 20 with me James and him
Ben.
Excellent.
Just noticed something in your room that I haven't noticed before, James.
I have tidied it.
Well, that's probably what it is. Look at the size and the blueness of that HP mug. That is
huge,
a
isn't it?
sight. Was that a present with an HP sauce bottle in it?
Yes.
Oh, classic.
From, well, it'll have been Christmas. But
From the 70s by the looks of it.
it's huge, isn't it? Like, I mean, what drink would you put in there?
Well, it's a mug. It'd have to be something warm, probably.
But that's a massive tin of soup if you were going to put soup in it.
Yes. You could fit a full tin of soup in there.
You could fit 2 full tins of soup.
No, you couldn't.
There's a wage. I bet you could.
I think...
Like the smaller tins. Not...
What, a half tin? Yes, you can fit 2 half tins in there.
No, you get small tins and fit like jumbo...
Are you saying as... Right, so you're saying it's just bigger than a normal sized tin of soup. Well,
No.
Here we go, James. Here we go. Next time you go shopping, you can get 2 tins of soup and check it out.
Oh my life. Dear me.
Some people have just went, nah, this is not for me, this podcast.
Don't know if it's for me. Right, Shopping, the band.
Yes, the band Shopping.
That's the focus of this.
Yes.
So let's get things done, because that's what they were good at.
They were, yes, very good at that. Shopping.
So what will people get? So this was an episode you did.
Yeah, episode I did at the Cluny, which is one of the favourite places that we ever played when we
Brilliant
gigged around.
venue.
I love it's a lovely bar, but a lovely venue. And this was the Cluny too, but I actually sport them in the Cluny.
Yeah. What was the noise like?
All right until the very end when a group of lads came in. Lads. I think they weren't actually that loud. We're just wrapping up anyway.
You did interrupt their meal, which was nice of you.
Yes, I did.
I've edited that bit out.
I can only apologise, and I apologised at the time, but they were happy with that. Yes, I did interrupt their food, and I was very hungry, but I was looking at the plates going, I want to have a little pinch of that when you're not looking, Rachel.
Well,
I didn't, though. Just for the record, I didn't.
Good. Yeah.
They were too kind to do that, and they were very hungry. It was one of those days,
There's
when
good food there as well.
Oh, excellent food. You know when you're travelling on your tour, like when you're stuck in the van and that, and you go.
Can't wait to get a burger and chips from them.
And they look good. And but they'd been to an interview before me with Frankie from the Heartstrings, amazing radio. So they were like, went from Glasgow down to Newcastle, into a radio show, into see meeting me, sound check, all that bits of stuff. So I was.
That's full on, isn't it?
Oh, it's full on, but that's part of the fun, I guess. But how I discovered Shopping, don't know how if you've got Apple Music yet or Spotify or whatever. But on a Friday when I'm in the office, I go on new music, new releases, and just pick albums at random. And one of them happened to be Shopping. I told them this, like I said, I'm a new fan, but the new album, The Official Body, it's one of those albums that it hit us straight away. So I went back to their other 2 albums, knew a bit more about them, went, this would be a really interesting band to get for the show, because...
What did you cover with them then?
We covered how they got started, because there's a bit of interest about in numerous bands beforehand and why this one clicked.
Yeah.
We also spoke about when they had their own label and then moving to a label and the pros and cons of that, which there are a few of each. And then we also spoke a bit about image as well, because they've just got a good image. It's not too in your face or anything like that, but they're distinct.
Well, there was stuff on decision making as well, which I quite liked, which we'll get on to. But yeah, I got the impression that there were very much people who are on it and they make things happen there.
Definitely. And it's paying dividends. Welcome
Shopping to Anyone Can Play Guitar podcast. We've got Rachel, Billy and Andrew and Stuart in the background.
Oh, he is, yeah.
Just in case we refer to him.
Yeah, we made you.
Stuart in the background.
That could be his new name, Stuart in the background.
Yeah.
So, Newcastle Cluny 2 tonight. Start of the tour. How's the tour going? How's 2018 starting? Brilliant new album. Edwin Collins produced.
Yeah, it's going good.
Sounds like it's going to be a big one.
Yeah, it's been really fun so far.
This is just the second gig.
Yeah.
Handily, they are on the dates of the month. So the 2nd of Feb, the second gig of the tour.
Yeah.
First one was yesterday in Glasgow, and that was great. A lot of fun, loads of friends. Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, because you started off Glasgow, London, isn't it? Like a combination of the two. So where did the band grow up, so to speak?
In London.
In London,
We
right.
used to play in a 5-piece band
Yeah.
that was London-based and formed, and then this band for the better part of 3 years, and then I moved to Glasgow 2 years ago.
Okay, cool. So like you say, this band's been going from 2012-ish, and I was looking at your background and stuff. There's lots of bands that you were in before and different stuff going on. How did this band gel and stick? And this is the one that's really, it's got the albums going. You've gone on Fat Cat Records. It's really 3 albums in. What's made this band stick compared to others?
I think we kind of I guess we were quite determined when we started this band. Not really determined, we were just like, let's see what happens if we make stuff happen really quickly. Because we've been in a lot of bands and it's always really fun, and obviously you're always juggling work as well, so a lot of the time stuff takes a while, and I'd just been made redundant, and these two were weren't working in the daytime, so we had a lot of time. We were like, okay, let's just do something quickly and release it ourselves, and see how that goes, you know what I mean? And it turned out to be a good idea, basically. And
anything with music and do-it-yourself is not a bad idea in my head, I must admit.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess we've just kind of stuck with that, just let's just keep doing it. It's not, because it's really easy to get all the other life stuff take over, and you're like, oh, we'll get together next week, and we'll start writing, next month, and then it's been years, and
I think we just all really love it. We just love playing shows, and I think it's really nice to be in a band with people where that's a kind of unspoken but obvious thing. It's well, obviously we want to go on tour. It's not like someone needs convincing that it's a good idea, it's always just plain kind of truth.
And I think and there's just 3 of us, so it's easier.
It was also that when we formed Shopping, from the members, all of us had been were in a 5-piece band, and that, with loads of other bands that I've been in, and everyone's been in, I'm sure people can relate to the whole stop-startiness of it. When you feel like you're doing quite a lot, and then you have to work around someone's schedules that they're not prioritising the same things you are, and that can get really frustrating, and animosity can build and all of that stuff. And we had a conversation when we started this band. The only conversation about what we want to do with this band was that we want to get stuff done. We don't want to be having to slow down, or having to all 3 of us decided that we wanted to do as much as we could with the time that we had available to us. Mm-hmm. That was the only chat we had about this band, so that's good that we started on that footing of no, we're going to try and do as much as possible.
That's cool. That actually brings on the 2 previous episodes, because the last one that's just went live, last 2, was a double header with a bloke called Pete Dale, who back in around about the 80s, 90s, he had his DIY label, mainly for himself and friends, which then grew into something bigger.
I'm not wearing my Slamp t-shirt today, but
excellent
it's at home.
label.
And one of the things he said was, which is what you basically just said, you can't go into it lightheartedly, can you? You're all in, basically. You've got to do it. And when we spoke to Ross from the Future Heads as well, he mentioned about the band's manifesto, which again is kind of similar to what you're saying. I think that's really important. So that's actually quite nice about you saying about the your own label. What made you decide to join forces with Fat Cat Records?
I think mainly it had gone so well that it would become a lot of work. And then trying to juggle doing the label and the band became a bit much. So, and we were okay, it might be worth getting some people who can push the sides of stuff that we don't have much leverage in, and not leverage, can't think of the right word, and they had a US.
I think that was a huge part of it. Was like, we could go to the States. We just really wanted to go.
And how often have you done that?
We've already done that twice.
Yeah.
We're going back in March.
So what's it like, the differences? Because we never really... We got out of Newcastle, but we never got abroad. What's the audiences like? Are they different? Is it the same kind of mentality?
I mean, it's going to be different for anyone and everyone that goes over there. But for us, and also America is huge, so it really depends where you are as well. But generally speaking, we had really good reception.
We've had really a lot of fun on tour in America.
Yeah, it's been really good. Generally, it's been pretty great.
I think maybe we're a bit more novel to people because we're from here, in the States. So people, it's quite exciting. In the same way that when a band from the States plays in the UK, everyone gets a little bit more excited.
Yeah.
It's really fun to go somewhere so far away, and even when you go to Europe and stuff like that, and people know your music and really like it, and you're like, wow, this is incredible.
How do you think? I mean, I probably know the answer to this, but what do you think is the catalyst for that?
I mean, I'm sure the internet has played a huge part. They wouldn't have heard us had it not existed. I can't imagine, what it was like for bands back in the day before the internet. I mean, I remember I was definitely around, and I was, listening to music, and it was difficult to find out about bands from faraway places. I hope that it's that people really like our music, and then word travels.
I think that the type of scene or community that we've sort of a part of, this kind of DIY punk queer kind of scene, I think it's made up of people who are kind of some music nerds and some kind of weirdos that are into researching stuff and connecting things online or wherever it may be in their record shop or in zines or whatever, and they're quite on it. So that's really nice. It's a very receptive audience. People who are genuinely love it and very obsessive about music. So I think we have a really great fan base in that way. It's people like us, that just are kind of obsessed with music.
Fall down the rabbit hole as well. So I did that myself with the official body. I kind of went back over stuff, Scared Paws as well, and just got into more stuff. I think you're right. I do think you're right. I think it lends itself to that audience, which can't be a bad thing, really. So, without getting yourself in trouble with the current label, is anything differences, positive or negative, with having your own label to having a label which is established?
I mean, you've got to stick to there's a bigger team involved, so timelines are a different thing. We can't just be we can't just release something when we want to do it. When we've finished it.
Schedules and stuff are out of your hands a little bit for the most part. So that's a negative, I would say, but.
Well, it's a negative, but also
it's just the truth.
It's
just how it is.
For the right reasons.
What they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everything gets bigger, and it's not. It's not. The end result is not bad. Having the schedules become longer, but that is
distribution. So when we put out the first record, we actually hand delivered it to shops when we were on tour. So. Which now seems mad that we did that, but
not long ago either.
But I think it took up a lot of time.
Yeah, cool. So something you just mentioned there, and hopefully I've got this in the right area, but we normally talk to some of the people in bands that we speak about image and your own image, and then you mentioned about punk playing a part, and this is where James, the other person on the podcast, and the audience will go, he's going to mention Fugazi and Minor Threat again in that Discord records. Your tour post is a very DIY looking, and I like that effect. How do you come about the image? What drives the image? How much control do you have over it?
I mean, we have full control.
Do you? That's a big thing.
We don't. Fat Cat are good. They don't try and steer us in any direction.
We just assume. Hopefully, most record labels are quite comfortable with bands being doing their own artwork, or at least having the final say or anything like that. Because that's a big part of. That would be horrible if you didn't have any creative control over what your work was your music was looking like.
So that's the right reason, then, aren't you? You want
I also think it's kind of with us. It's more than an image. image thing. It's not like someone's been like, I think, like, styled us and been like, I think a punk image is good. It's like, we actually,
that's what we do.
So we don't put that much thought. We've never really
scenes and like, you know, Billy takes photographs and it comes from like our own practice or, you know, the art and creative stuff that we make and have always made. And it's more ingrained than that.
Right.
And I think that definitely the punk thing is like, it's not like, oh, we just decided to adopt this way of making things. It's like it comes from something deeper.
Cool. But like with everything, it's all about your taste is informed by like what influences you and what you were into, and like we all like were into underground or punk music when we were coming of age and doing music for the first time. So I guess that all informs what you wanna create and how things look. So I mean, stuff is influenced by other things that have gone before.
Yeah, and I think we all have quite different aesthetic tastes as well. And it just what generally happens is like, oh, this thing needs to be made, and then one of us will do it. So not really like huge amount of like discussion before it goes into like the group. You know, like, that as a group, it's just sort of like one of us will like offer something.
Yeah, that's good. I suppose you get a lot of control on that as well. You can.
The hardest thing with like any group of people is to get people in agreement. Everyone to like what's being made. So if you find something that everyone is like, yeah, that looks good, or like, yeah, that's okay, just that's fine, go with that. That is like, it's much better to reach a consensus on something than like have one person be like, this is what the image is. We're like that with everything that we do in the band. It's by consensus. Like we try and get at least, if not a compromise, then like full agreement. You know, like on everything that we're doing, all choices that we make, including artwork and stuff. So as long as no one is like, I hate it, then it's like, cool, go on. That'll do.
Sometimes that'll do is the best thing you can say as well.
You have three different creative people with very different ideas. Everything.
A lot of things to argue over as well. So I suppose compromises.
If you can avoid arguments, it's good to avoid.
Definitely. Unless something's glaringly obvious that it's not going to work. That's cool. So I'm just conscious of time. The rest of the year, obviously the start of the year has been big. Album release, the tour has just started. Said you've got a tour in America coming up. What's the rest of the year after that looking like when we get into festival seasons and end of year tour? Is that all booked up or under wraps?
It's starting. We're booking stuff now.
Booking it out now.
So you can. Is it just basically a summer of festivals? Because I think, personally speaking, correct me if I'm wrong, I think your music will go well at festivals. You know, when you get the bands that you discover at festivals and you get you win people over because of it.
I think we have we have done that in the past. And we're playing some new festivals this year. Only a couple of them confirmed. I think there's some stuff that we're going over, offers or places that we want to go, things that we want to do, but nothing announced yet. But we will. I think we've got a bunch coming up this year, and then probably a return to America before the year's out as well.
Excellent.
Definitely more shows around the rest of Europe. Lots in Germany, I think.
Oh, brilliant! Excellent. So as I said before, we always do a charity or good cause of the week. I know yourself, Andrew. You said you had one at the start there. Transmission, was it?
Well, it's not really, because I don't know the channels that you would go to donate to Transmission right now. If they're taking donations, but they just lost their funding from Creative Scotland, which was invaluable, and it came at a really strange time because this is the first point in Transmission's 30 years history that they are predominantly person of colour run. Excuse me, I've just eaten a chip. It's pretty coincidental that they've just lost their funding when places that I and a lot of people consider lesser worthy are still being funded by Creative Scotland. This invaluable source of... This is a space that I put gigs on quite a lot in my queer and feminist run collective. They often have fundraisers for Unity Centre, which is an invaluable resource for refugees and asylum seekers in the UK, based in Glasgow. And lots of other worthy places have like a hub around Transmission, so it's a real shame that they've just lost their funding. And if you can't donate to Transmission, or they're not taking donations, or they're just working out what they're doing right now, then you can donate to Unity Centre, which I said It's that's Uni Centre Glasgow, easily located, I'm sure, on the internet. They do a lot of great work for asylum seekers and refugees.
Cool. We'll put links on the show notes and in the website, as we always do as well, so that's cool. Excellent. Well, I'll wrap up there because I'm very conscious that the meals are getting cold. So thank you very much for your time. We hope the rest of the gig goes well, the rest of the tour goes well.
Sweet. Cool.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So, what's the first thing that
Well, one of the first things I wanted to speak about with them was like how they got started, and not from a how do you know each other type of way, more along the lines of they've been in bands beforehand and what made this one click. Because we were quite lucky. Our first go was the one that we stuck with. Mm. We did it for 8 years, maybe 9. We knew the lads that were in our band were of a similar level, we got on, and we had the same ethos. So they've been in a couple of bands, and I was wondering why this one clicked. And it came down to a little bit about they all had a similar mindset. They've been in bands before, and they could feel there was something about this band. The songs were there, the attitude was there, they knew what they wanted to do, where they wanted to go, and they were all in on it.
Well, that's it. They mentioned one of the bits that stuck in my mind that previous bands had been sort of like stop-start.
Yeah.
And I can get that, because in our early days,
yeah,
I guess would maybe, I say early, maybe the first year, would have maybe practice a couple of times in a week, and then we might not practice again for another few weeks, and then it was very sort of stop-start. So I could imagine various people being in bands where you're like, we're just like, it's good, I'm enjoying it, but we're not actually getting anywhere. Like every time we get together, you know what it's like when you're writing a song and like if you've been practicing on the Tuesday, like after work or whatever, and then right you're coming back and then it's Thursday and you're practicing again, you can pick up where you left off. If it's like 3 weeks later, it's like how you sort of almost lose that momentum a bit. So.
Yeah, totally. And I think looking back on it, that was one of our misplaced feelings, as in we spent all that time doing that stop-you-start bit when we were at uni, when we had the most time ever to get it right. And then we were so much more, I wouldn't say dedicated, we were always dedicated, but so much more organised and with it when we had full-time jobs.
Yeah. which I think it brought more focus as well, because you had a finite amount of time once we started working.
Exactly.
You had to make the most out of the time that we had.
Yeah, totally. I wish we made that first year count a bit more, like practice.
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 times at 5 times an hour, 5 times at 5 hours a time.
Definitely. I would say to anyone who's a musician or in a band who is still in education of some point, the amount of time that you've potentially got that you'll spend in front of playing computer games or out in
we were very good at Mario Kart.
Very, very good. Like, you don't realise until later the amount of time that you could have really been spending on.
Totally.
And don't get us wrong.
You still want to do that, without a doubt. But we could have doubled our time in first half and still had too much time to spend on other things.
Comfortably.
Especially when we finished like with dissertation in the April, when I had like an odd couple of things to hand in by the June. So much time. so much time. Anyway, but aside, that's getting off the point from what Shopping did do was use their time much better. And Billy was saying that when she got made redundant, it was like, this is a perfect opportunity to use a negative into a positive.
I like that.
Yeah, and I like that as well. I didn't realise that from research beforehand, and it just shows like sometimes you can get that push when you're not expecting it.
Well, sometimes life throws something at you, and you can either just think, right, everything's against us, or you can go, right, sod it. How am I going to make the most of this? So fair play to her on that one.
Definitely, and if you've got a couple of quid from your redundancy, in this example, it allows you to go, right, I'm going to spend 6 months on this. If it doesn't work, whatever. So that was really good, like just getting to know that part about it. And that kind of led into the next bit, which is about their own label. So we spoke to Pete Dale, and which they knew Pete as well.
Yeah.
She probably heard.
Everyone knows Pete.
Everyone knows Pete, yeah.
Or Pete knows everyone. One of the two.
Oh, that is deep. Like that, again, that because you've got that time and that you're all in. The whole setting up your own label, it's kind of like you've got a name on your CD, which is, or your whatever, which is, I think, gives you credibility. it is a lot of work, but like you're invested in the work when you've paid for the CDs, the vinyl, the whatever. You're invested to make sure, like as Rachel said, hand deliver them at some point.
Yeah.
But again, it's a tangible, physical thing that you can give to someone, which people still like, and having a label name behind it works, in my opinion. And like we kind of did that. We just didn't realise we were doing it because we were having those sessions, folding bits of cards. We've said this before. On here. Yeah. We just didn't put on it Rig Records or.
Yeah, I like what they said about, and it wasn't necessarily specific about when they had their own label, but in general, I think it was when they were talking about partly on their brand image or what the artwork might be for an album or a single or whatever. They always look to reach a consensus on something, and sometimes that's a case of, right, well, I don't hate that, but everyone else in the group loves it, therefore fair enough, as opposed to that might be okay, but if it was two people love it and one person hates it, then no, we don't do it. Like, there needs to be a broad consensus, because you don't want to be doing something that at least one person in the group fundamentally doesn't like.
Yeah, of course.
I could see, well, that will be how, I guess, some bands start on the path of drifting apart, breaking up, all the rest of it. So
there's bands littered with the history of that, and like, even like bands that were really successful.
Yeah, because there'll be some things that I guess in a band we could be making a decision on something. Someone might have a great idea about, random example, I don't know, right, I'm going to do some flyers, I'm going to do whatever, and it might be, I don't really mind. I'm not like, there'll be sometimes some people in the band will be genuinely not bothered. Yeah. But there's some big critical things where you'd be like, everyone needs to be on board.
Yeah. Sort of if you read the lyrics of a song and it's something like, I do not believe in what you're talking about there, because that is ridiculous or horrific, then when it comes to that, like, you're right, when we used to do a lot of flyering and Simon would make them, but then we would go around town putting them up. Yeah. Rob did not care either way about that. You can do that, do I need to give you any money? And that's fine. That's fine. That worked, because you've got different things on and what have you. But that whole everyone's going in the same direction. That's what business to me, but that's true. Everyone's going in the same direction. Though we're all in. They've all got a say. They're all. I think that's why it's working. You could tell when I was speaking to the three of them that they have this kind of like in it together bond, like a gang mentality. 3 albums in as well, and this is the year, like, I can see this year being a bigger year for them as well, because it's like they've built up a crowd. Rachel's saying they've got quite an obsessive crowd as well, and when they get fans, like, they've got that kind of obsessive gene to them, where like people get really into the music, go back over the old stuff.
Well, I like that, I mean, she was saying that
like almost mentality.
That there's a community, I think she described it, of the types of people who would typically be in their audience or their fans, and they're the type of people who will go off and research into things, and just in general they're very receptive to stuff, and they can use that to their advantage, I guess, in the sense of, right, if we put a tiny little bit of something on artwork, all right, the type of audience we've got, they're gonna look into that. Yeah. Why is that there? What's it all about? They'll search or do whatever research on it, and I guess that's sort of in part ties back to the Mark Duffett episode on fans. It's sort of right, knowing who your audience is and sort of doing certain things that'll appeal to them. Because if you've got a really inquisitive audience, then if you're not doing those little things that would spark their interest, and a bit back to the Paul Smith holding a red book up on stage, right? If you've got an audience who really wouldn't care or ever research or anything, then it might not hit the mark. But for the shopping guys, they know their audience, so
and the audience and them in the live shows are like a communal event. The audience are like part of the band, and one of the top and bottom of it, for me anyway, that the songs are really good as well, which
always helps.
And that kind of got me like thinking streetwear. These tunes are really good. So if you get that, then you add on the community part of it, add on the going for it part of it, the interaction part of it, the live performance. It kind of builds this thing up.
It's building the full package.
Yeah, it totally is. They've got a good image, but it's not like an over the top image. It's like, oh, these look like they're in a band, but not like, well, we can tell they're in a band. It's just they've got a nice balance as well. They've got a nice balance of everything that's going on. And it comes down to what we spoke to. They're all in it, hard work, going the right direction, and they're trying things out, like their own label.
Well, and on that hard work and the label bit, and clearly these are people who will get on and do what needs to be done. But they said there was a point where it was taking too much of their time, and
it goes too big.
Came to a tipping point where, yes, we loved the DIY element of our own label, but it just got to a point where we just couldn't go. We couldn't do all of the things that needed to be done when you get to a certain scale, I guess. So that was definitely interesting to hear. And they said that the pros and cons as well. So as much as they love being on the label that they're on, and it brings all sorts of advantages, there's still the other side of it is you're part of a bigger machine. You know, there's timescales. You can't just do things when you want. You know, you've got to fit into a bigger process, so to speak. But
they picked a good label with Fat Cat as well, because it sounds like they're almost left to their own devices, and they've got full artistic license with it. But they're right. It's now their timetables. But like we said about when we had full-time jobs in the band, those timetables aren't such a bad thing. It only becomes a bad thing if you just kind of get the songs out. If you get a writer's block, or you're playing the same riff on every song, you just don't know why. I've done that before. I just couldn't move off a riff. Or there was a point before we did probably the second to last batch of songs, I just couldn't get something new. I couldn't think of anything new. I couldn't think of a new melody. I thought, so it was like that's only one of my only things I like that the timetable thing would have an issue with, is what if you get stuck and you have to just throw any old guff on it. But like with Nick Helm, when you create boundaries and perspective and a target, it can help as well.
Well, it's interesting. I think a future episode we should maybe look at something on sort of goal setting, target setting, because I get the impression, and again this happened to us in phases, that you can spend every week, however often, practicing, getting together, all the rest of it, and getting some really great songs, but it's like it's almost to what end? What's your end game here, right? Is it to play this particular gig? Is it to play this festival? Is it to go on tour? Is it to release a single as an album? Mm-hmm. And sometimes these things just come about, but having a real structured target and goal, and again, if you don't set yourself some timescales, you could end up just constantly just meandering your way through time as a band, and
that could be all right if you just want to play on a Saturday night at the pub. But like, you're right, then it's just a hobby.
Yeah,
it's a good hobby. Don't get us wrong, it's a great hobby.
Oh.
But if you want to think, right, I want to go on a 10-day tour, I want to see Glasgow, Edinburgh, Manchester, Leeds, London, whatever it is. It all depends on what you want.
Yeah, but it's breaking it down, right? So if I want to play this many gigs, right, how do I do that, right? Well, I need to speak to promoters, right? Who are they? Like, how do I get in touch with them and all that? But then I need an audience, right? How do I get in touch with people from that part of the country? How do I do that? How do I engage? You know, it's breaking those goals down into sort of manageable chunks, but having it as part of an ultimate plan to say, right, we're going to get our target this year is to do X, Y, Z, and here's how we're going to do it. And I get the impression that Chopin were very sort of driven in that sense of say, we are going to get stuff done, and here's how we're going to do it.
I might be right or might be wrong. I'm not too sure if there's a Chopin spreadsheet somewhere where they've created a long list of everything they need to do. There might be. But I can fully envisage they've stopped in a practice session, put a bit of paper on a wall and went, right, what are we aiming for?
Yeah. Who's doing what this week?
Are we aiming for, I don't know, 10,000 followers on Twitter, so we've got 10,000 base. When do we want it by? Are we looking for 20 gigs?
But then I think that they'd probably... That's the types of bands that would probably be more of a, well, to what end? What's the point of having that many followers? You know?
Yeah.
Is it because we want to play a gig in this city, therefore we need X amount of followers from that city in order to sell enough tickets to go and play a show or whatever it might be, as opposed to just a random thing, which is wonderful, but what does it actually drive? What's the end goal? But I've
only known the band as in from a fan point of view, from earlier this year when I just happened to come across the official body. Give it a listen. That's the beauty of the streaming services. I'm a bit on the fence with them because it's costing me more money because I find bands and I buy their albums still. And people might think that's ridiculous. You've got it for free. I'm like, no, but I still want to support the band. I still want the tangible thing.
Definitely.
Because you get the artwork, you get the lyrics, you get or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not. Sometimes it's not just the music, and that's something with shopping as well. We've spoke about image and posters and all that sort of thing.
No, but it is that. I think that
so it's cost me a fortune. This £10 a month.
There is definitely a physical, an element of the music community out there now. Whether that's just music fans who will still want to support the artists and whatever band they love. So if that's a physical album, or a T-shirt, or a mug, or whatever, there will be people out there who still genuinely want to do that, but also there's still a lot of people who will just be like, I can listen to that for free. Or
and I think those people have always listened to it for free. They just had cassettes, or what have you.
Yeah, taped it off their mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Or then burnt the CD, or whatever. Yeah.
So it's always gone, and I think, because I read it somewhere that streaming services, I think it's 4,500 times something has to be listened to count as a download. So, no offence shopping, but I don't think I want to listen to your album 4,500 times for you to get that money from me. So I'd rather just buy your album. Yeah. If you make £1 from it, great. You're going to make much. That's £1 more you're going to make for me. You listen to it 4,500 times. Because that's like once a day for like 30 years or something like that. So that's a lot of the same album. So, yeah, and that's that obsessiveness they spoke about. Went back on the old, I say older albums. They've been together 5 years. It's not like they've been together since the 70s. But they're just as good. I just think this new album is a great album that'll get them more people like myself who didn't really know who they were before. Yeah. I actually didn't know them at all before this year. And that just snowballs to bigger venues, festival shows. I think it'll be great at a festival. I think it'll be good if they get good support slots as well. I think it'll be good with like someone like Depeche Mode on tour.
Essentially, you just think they'll be good?
I think they're really good.
In summary.
Yeah. I have become one of their obsessive fans. But when you get to speak to them or listen to this podcast, they've put a lot of work in it. They've been in bands before, so they'll kind of figure out what's going on in this musical world. They've put the effort in, they've put the time in, and it's working for them.
Yeah.
Well, good on them.
Yeah, definitely. So, the good cause, Transmission.
Yes.
The art space. So I had a bit of a look because I didn't know anything of them. And
interesting.
So it seems like it's sort of a member-based organisation where artists, and I say artists in the sense of whether it's a painting or a sculpture type.
All types of art, yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew described it as a space, didn't he?
It seems to be a space where members can put on like exhibition shows of their work, and there is that space where they can sort of display their creativity, I guess, and that had its funding pulled.
Well, coincidentally, I got my tax thing today. This is not going to be this boring, I promise you. And I was looking at what the breakdown was, and I'm paying 4.5 times more for defence than I am for culture. And I was like, there's something a bit off there.
Doesn't feel right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like to get political on the podcast, and I definitely try not to do that on Twitter and stuff, but there's a bit of a disparity there.
Yeah.
That's not how you say that word.
Well, and there's arguments for
both, yeah.
For everything that taxes go on. But, yeah, as
it just
Ross Millard said, culture is massively important.
It is.
So a good thing to shout out. So I think that the general message, and we'll put links to Transmission, but whether you're in Glasgow or wherever, a bit like the call to arms that Ross gave, support your local cultural activities. Coming up next week, we're back at the Cluny with the bolt of energy that is Paul Langley to talk about tour management, the importance of the role, what it involves, and who can do it.
We've reached the end of this week's episode of Anyone Can Play Guitar podcast.
Big thank you for tuning in, and remember to stop by iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.
While you're there, it would be amazing if you could leave a rating and a review.
All the show notes can be found at www.acpgmusic.com, and if you want to get in touch,
email us your questions, any feedback and any suggestions to info@acpgmusic.com.
That's it for now. Keep supporting upcoming artists.
And we'll catch you next time.